So, welcome to Patch Review with Monk Business and Henrykator. Henrykator is the guy up top. I forgot to put his name on, actually, now that I think about it. So, that's just me being an ass.
So nice to meet you guys. We're excited about the new patch. I personally am super excited to finally have a little bit of change. It was a little bit stale, the meta for me. I actually like the meta. It was just a little bit stale. So
honestly, just anything changes is kind of important. And I hope that they keep up this kind of monthly or whatever change. To me, we're reviewing the patch now, and we're probably gonna be brutal or whatever. But honestly, just seeing changes to me is more important than hitting it perfectly. I don't know if it's the same with you, Henry.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also generally what we see here is an approach where they make very small changes.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I mean, there's no reason to butcher a card completely just yet until it's really shown to be broken, you know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So, I guess let's start it off with Tuskboar. So, Tuskboar went from the classic Tuskboar into the exact same, but now it deals 1 damage to general when it goes back to hand.
What do you think about it?
I guess my opinion is it feels like a nothing change in terms of power, but I kind of like, I guess, that it now it adds this extra identity, I guess, to Songhai, where now they have 2 cards, not just one that deals damage to you at the start of your turn. But my guess is they wanted to have some kind of incentive for the opponent to leave it alone, because before you never left it alone, right? But I feel like they should have put more into it, like more damage or something. I don't know. Or heal your opponent could also have been interesting, actually.
Exactly. It feels like just a change because people are boar, bacon, wine. So they just wanted to do something to it. I'm not sure about that. I mean, it was a busted card, and this is a negative. I mean, no matter how you look at it, it is a negative, even though it won't appear to be happening so often. But even so, I think together with the other Songhai changes, maybe it's fine for now. I guess we'll see how it develops.
Yeah,
I want to use it in some Avenger decks with also with Ramon to see what happens if you do that. Like, Swan Avenger stuff and other things that gets buffed if you take damage. Sonya, maybe. Red Sonya.
Oh, Red Faction is live.
Yeah, something like that. But I'm not quite sure. I mean,
I guess it hits your artifact, so it's harder to play Tuskboar in a deck where you have an artifact and run away.
That's anti-Blood Rage Mask. So if you can actually, as an opponent, choose to leave it to kill their Blood Rage Mask, but then you just get a.
Then you get Tuskboar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wonder if it still deals the damage if it's burned. I guess so. I don't see why not.
If it's burned, what do you mean?
If the opponent has a full hand when it returns.
At the start of the what damage and I would think so. Yeah.
Okay, then you can maybe do some stuff with the Hailstone prisoning another minion and getting that burned and still do a tick to the artifact, like some niche cases where it can be relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh. Well, let's move on because there's a lot of changes.
Yep, let's also speed them up.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a change to Mask of Shadow. It went from 5 mana, backstab 5, to now it's 1 mana, backstab 3. So I think, to me, the reason they made this buff is probably because of the nerf that we'll see later on. They changed another artifact to 2 mana, which is probably why they changed this one to 1, just to have. It seems like they want to have multiple mana numbers for each artifact, right? Like all of the different factions have different mana artifacts. I think that's just the reason. And then while they're here, they just make a slight buff, like a slight change, because I think in general it's a slight buff. The numbers are not completely linear, otherwise it would be backstab 2.5, right? And the backstep effect itself is the most important part of this. Just getting no retaliation. So having it in 1 mana, I think, is interesting.
Yeah, and I also think it in that backstep deck, if you want to go for that, it's pretty tight on the mana. You really curve, and you have some minions which are quite good, like the horn guy. What's he called now again? The 3/3 that grows when he backsteps and so on.
Yeah. Gorehorn or something.
Gorehorn, exactly. Sometimes it's hard to squeeze in that 2 mana if you play that deck, and I think with 1 you just have better odds of doing that, or playing something and playing Mask of Shadows. So it's not just clogging up your hand completely.
Yeah, absolutely. Karabi, he says that it's less versatile now, but still good, which seems to be the nerfing theme. I assume you talk about Boar. I don't see how Mask of Shadow is less versatile. I didn't see a chat before. But yeah, I would say so. Yeah, you can. I think the biggest change is just getting rushed down.
Yeah, but I like it. I think it's more control now rather than trying to do some stupid stuff with triple Mask of Shadows, backstep for 15 stuff.
That's fun though.
Yeah, but it seemed like that was the way that Mask of Shadows was played before, to be honest.
Absolutely. So, let's click it along. We have Twin Strike. So Twin Strike, it might be hard to spot the difference, but basically before it hit random targets, and now you choose 2 targets. But you still need to have 2 targets to choose. If your opponent only have 1, you cannot use Twin Strike.
Nope.
But
I think it's a great change.
Yeah, it's a cool change. I think especially in the Swarm Mirrors, right, where you have something very important to target down.
Yeah, this means that you can actually do 2 damage to a Blood Moon Priestess and then Ghost Lightning afterwards, whereas before you're just completely wrecked if you don't hit that exact target.
That's true, actually. Like if they have a bunch of 1/1s, absolutely.
I think that's a good one. And generally speaking, I just always loved Control Songhai. I think we are not quite there yet where you can make a really good deck like we could with Control Reaver in Duelyst 1. But this one is like... I'm seeing this can develop into something very good with a little bit more support for that archetype.
Yeah, absolutely. A great change, honestly. I was thinking how to change this, but I think this is the cleanest approach, so good job.
Yep, great one.
Okay, I think we'll move on to the biggest actual nerf to Songhai faction, and also the most complained about card, Blood Rage Mask, going from 1 to 2 mana.
Solid change. I mean, it's still a good card, but now you have to think a bit, and you also cannot play Heartseeker and this Blood Rage Mask on your very first turn anymore, which was quite disgusting sometimes, that you can develop a minion and you can put this on. Or go ahead, put a Fox on the mana and then play the mask or something. Now you cannot just get it out that early without sacrificing something, it seems.
Yeah. And it's even more of a early commit now. Like before, because it's only 1 mana, you could kind of keep it in your hand, and then on the turn that you want to burst them down, you equip it and then throw out all of your spells, right? But now, because it's 2 mana, it's much harder to get all the spells you want in. So there's more of a skill testing issue where do I equip this 1 turn earlier, and then my opponent has a chance to respond to it, right? I wonder.
It's also a bigger loss, if you actually lose the Blood Rage Mask now. Also, it feels better to Rustcrawler it and so on. You get 1 mana extra out of it.
Absolutely.
Bigger commitment.
Do you think it's still gonna see play? Like just play the same old deck, but now Blood Rage Mask is at 2, and you just slightly worse, but still good enough? Or what is your thought on this?
I wonder. I mean, to be honest, I didn't play that much Songhai and Duelyst 2. It's not an archetype for me. I know it's strong, and I just don't enjoy that playstyle. But I think that it will just be still viable. But now as I said, you need to think a bit. Sometimes it felt like Songhai players are not always thinking. It could still get some wins. I know it's a very skill-intensive deck, actually. Not taking anything away from that deck. It's just that it's also possible to win with just brain farting, face rolling the keyboard without thinking. Now you need to maybe think a bit more, which I think is generally good for Duelyst.
Yeah.
It's a thinking game. Yeah,
absolutely. And the fact that you have to commit earlier. I think the biggest complaint about Songhai is just it feels like you cannot interact with them. They're doing their own thing. They still have to think about what they are doing, but whenever they're doing their thing, there's no response, no back and forth between the players, right?
Yeah.
So let's see what happens with that. Yeah, that's it for the Songhai nerfs. So let's move on to what some people call a buff.
Yeah, so, Vindicator.
Yeah, Vindicator got one more attack, but only the first minion that takes it over gains rush. And also, I wonder, does this still work with Senrui? I guess if Senrui is the first card you play, then
it works with Senrui, but what it doesn't work with is then the next minion, it basically fulfills its effect. And I'm interested because many people say that now Senrui combo is useless, but it's still pretty good to steal a Vindicator. You still get a rushed Senrui out. I don't see how that's bad, to be honest.
Yeah,
I like that rushed 4/3 if you steal it. Yeah, sure, you cannot get rush on something else afterwards, but come on, that's also a bit greedy to expect.
I think the biggest buff, and we talked about this ourselves earlier, is the Tiger interaction. Before, you could Tiger this, and you had a 3/1 Tiger, right? But now, Tiger trade, and there's no pressure from the Tiger staying on the board anymore.
Yeah, I think also a beautiful play you can do now as player 2, going second. You just go ahead, take the mana, you use Greater Fortitude, and then you run 2 up. And then next turn you can just play your 4/5 Rebirth Veteran Silitha with Rush. And how can you really do something against that without Dispel? Now you cannot just Night Sour it anymore because it would get 4 attack from Greater Fortitude. I think that's a huge change.
That's true.
And you can trade better with 4 drops.
I guess it also means that if you Greater Fortitude it, you dodge your own Plasma Storm, right? So it's much easier to play Plasma Storm in your mid-range deck that has a Vindicator. And like Vindicator already fits the best in the mid-range deck, at least the new version especially, because you only use it once, so there's no reason to use it in rush playstyles. Now you just it's kind of sneaky. I think overall,
also, don't underestimate that natural selection is all of a sudden not blocked by Vindicator anymore. Before you really had to think about that you basically can never natural select something if you play a Vindicator, but now you can still take the 2 drops from them. It's quite important.
And just as if you even just ignore everything below the rush line, and now the stats by itself is kind of okay. Like it's Tiger level stats. I think, to me, this doesn't seem like a nerf, but more like a net neutral, depending on what kind of deck you played it in. But I'm afraid that Magma might be king after this patch, honestly.
Yeah, because if this is the only nerf, it's not technically the only nerf, because the Archon nerf that we're going to see later hit Magma pretty hard as well. Yeah. Archon was really bread and butter Magma, but I still think they can just play something else.
Magma is... I guess they have one of the best top ends, right? Like you have Silithar Elder. I don't think any other deck can compete on the top end of that. Yeah, exactly.
You have Osirix as a competitor. That's
Kappa.
Yeah. No, I'm interested to see how Vindicator turns out. I'm definitely, I like to play Magma, even though my brain is slowly turning into a lizard brain. So this, interested to test it. I'm not sure it's a nerf, honestly, but let's see.
Yeah, I think it's still very strong. The whole faction is still very strong. I would have liked to see some other changes too, but I made a video about that already. So
exactly, Magma is a bit too much of a just stop everything you do without any conditions. But
I already clicked along to the other nerf, maybe not nerf. Thing. So this is the old Fenrir War Master. It was a 3/3, became a 3/3 when it died, and they basically moved 1 health stat from the Ghost Wolf over to the Fenrir War Master. I'm just gonna swap over. This is the new change.
What do you think about it?
I think it's weird.
It's interesting why they did it. But we can always ask ourselves that. But I think let's talk more about what it actually means in practice. I mean, what it means, I suppose, is that you can trade your 2-drop and your general in, and then you can trade your other 2-drop in to the Ghost Wolf.
Yeah.
Or you can kill the Ghost Wolf with a Spirit Harvester, and stuff like that. You do also have better protection from Dancing Blades on the main body of Fenrir, which I think I have seen many Fenrir War Masters getting Dancing Blades.
This is a nerf to Dancing Blades, basically.
I would say so, yeah. Wouldn't you say? I mean,
it's true.
Dancing Blades into Fenrir is always quite beautiful because you feel like you kind of get that body for free.
Yeah. You hit the perfect number.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, because I think most people would see this as a nerf because of the first interaction you mentioned, like 2-drop plus face instead, and then the next guy also just trades your face and doesn't stay around. But there's so many situations where free health is like the breakpoint, like Phoenix Fire and Grasp and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know. To me, this seems like Fenrir War Master is still just insanely strong.
It's insanely strong, yeah. I think we also have to bear in mind, though, that the Lady Luck doesn't buff the Ghost Wolf anymore. That's also a sneaky nerf to that. That was some sick stuff you could do before.
That's true.
Yeah. But let's see how it develops with Fenrir. I think it's still very strong. It's just still insane stats for a 3-drop, right?
It's still the best 3-drop in the game, I think.
Yeah.
Even though we just looked at Vindicator, holy shit.
Yeah. They're different, I would say.
Yeah, very
from a pure stat perspective, I think Fenrir is just best.
Yeah, of course. So, this is the true Vannar nerf.
Yeah.
Lady Luck has been changed so that it no longer buffs token minions, which is interesting because they have cards already that mention, this only works when you play something from hand or from your action bar, such as what's called Voice of the Wind, right? When you play something from your action bar, then it summons a dude, but it doesn't summon a dude if you play like a
waltz
token
or
minion
something.
or waltz or something. Yeah, exactly. And they didn't change that, so you have to think which minions actually are not tokens, like which minions summon non-tokens. And I think we agreed that only Ash Method and the Dervish, 1/2 Dervish in
Orb Weaver, right?
Yeah, Orb Weaver, yeah, exactly. Those are the only 2 minions because they summon copies of themselves, so the new minion is not a token. So otherwise, what is the point?
Argue
right?
like some Surreal stuff if you double flash.
That's true, though.
And play Luck.
I guess,
but you need some crazy stuff in order.
I guess resurrection mechanics. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, resurrection mechanics where you bring back a minion is not played from hand, but it's not a token minion. That's very true.
Yeah, but that archetype is not that good yet, right? I think Nether summoning. I don't know. The problem is you want to play Wraithlings there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are not buffed by Lady Luck, which is tricky. But Sarlacc would work though. I mean, not that it makes a big difference, but in theory.
I guess Sarlacc would work.
Yeah.
Are we ready for that meta? We get a random provoke Sarlacc down in the corner.
Yeah, so good.
So nice. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I think Lady Luck's nerf was just there's nothing wrong with Lady Luck. There's just something wrong with some interactions in Vannar with the walls, which is completely bonkers what can happen there. The amount of stats for no real investment. I think that's why it's nerfed, let's be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like this clean nerf where I like this more than just saying from hand. It's just interesting to think about what the difference is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to something I don't think anyone saw coming, honestly. Like, I suggested this just as a kind of a joke, but, I suggested so many things that the chance of me hitting something right is...
Yeah. I mean, I like it. I think you talked about it very well in your last video, which I can recommend everybody to check out if you didn't, that there are so many neutrals which are just pure garbage because they are just not interesting or they're just a little bit too weak, where it's like, just make them a little bit better. Like, for example, what we see here, this 1 health change, 1 attack change actually makes quite a difference because now you get to 4 attack instead of 3, which makes it immune to all kinds of shenanigans, like Plasma and Night Sorrow and all this stuff. It should be noted that Sun Elemental. I think not many of us have actually played it, but it doesn't damage itself. It literally loses a health, which means you cannot really heal it again afterwards. So you need probably to play it in a deck that has some buffs, right?
Yeah. Well, either you just play it as is. I think if your deck randomly needs a 4-drop, and there's no reason for you to play a golem, because this is basically a golem that over time becomes more and more pressure. Since it happens at the end of your turn, your opponent cannot leave it at 1, for example, to punish it. So no matter what, you end your turn and then it buffs up. Of course, it's possible that you want to trade with something, leaving it at 1, but then you just choose not to do that, right?
But are there many situations where we would play this card over a Hailstone Golem, if we are honest?
Yes, the question is, how often do you want to play a Hailstone Golem?
Exactly. Right. I just mean this card is a little bit viable to being dispelled.
But it goes back, right? You can say you dispel it, yes, but then it's still a 2/7. Like, it's not a good dispel target.
Yeah, but it's not a 2/7. I think the health is just lost, right?
No, it's a debuff. Like, it's a buff, just like if you get frozen and you dispel it, it's gone. So the -1 health is a buff. Since, like you said before, it's not a damage piece of damage.
Okay. So it will actually get a keyword called something like whatever. I never played this card.
No, I tested it with what's it called? In my heal deck before, the 3/6 that heals itself. I gave it a +3, -3. Yeah. Hit in, and it only healed up to 3 health instead of 6. Okay. And then it got dispelled and it was 3/6. So it's like, yeah. Sun Elemental, probably no one is going to play it. If you randomly have a 4-drop open, you can test it out. If you randomly play a deck that has a bunch of health buffs, and somehow that's a deck, maybe vet or something. This is a vet buff, I guess.
Yeah,
you can try it out. We're gonna move on to something more interesting.
Yeah. This is just like clearly they just want to buff some neutrals. I hope they continue doing this every patch. It's just that's the main takeaway.
Absolutely. Either buff or rework something. And I would like to see more than 1 card though, but 2 cards maybe. Yeah. But we'll see. So this is the last boy, Archon Spellbinder. It got significantly changed. So not only did it go from 6 to 5 mana, and lost 5 points of stats, it also the effect became 2-sided, which is very interesting because it's an Arcanist, right? Normally you can play Arcanist in Arcanist decks, which care about playing spells, but this one not so much.
Yeah, I think this change is like the community and also the looking at statistics index. This card was just in everything. It felt like, is it mid-range? Archon. Is it aggro? Archon. Is it control? Archon. It is just way too big a stat stick, and there was no competition for it. And it's a one-sided, relatively good effect. An effect that is so good that you can sometimes just lock Songhai completely just with this card alone.
Yeah.
It needed some kind of nerf. I don't know if they overdid it.
I think they did.
I wonder what would happen if the effect stayed the same, but it would just have the stats like that it has now.
So it only affects the opponent?
I don't know if that would be enough. I think the problem is just that it has 9 HP. That's ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
With 6, you can at least kind of still squeeze in a Phoenix Fire and trade something into it. I mean, it's possible to get rid of it, but 9 HP, good luck, you know?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. They could have just made it a 7/7 and called it a day, you know, or 6/8 or whatever. Remove 2 stats and it's fine. Removing 5 stats for mana down, it's tough. I think because it has a symmetrical effect, I wouldn't mind as much it having good stats as well. Like, you could make it would it be too strong if it was a 6/6, for example? I don't think so.
No, 6/6 could be okay. But with that being said, even though it got butchered, I think it still has its place. I think it's not so bad that it can never be played, but I think it's very, very niche now. Let's say you have a golem deck. Maybe it could fit there because you don't care about spells. Maybe. or
Yeah.
maybe you have a tournament that you want to join, and you know for a fact that there are just spell high everywhere. I think this is still good, still against spell high, because one more cost to their spells and a 5/6 body, it's quite good actually, but only against that specific archetype. This day, I tried it a little bit yesterday in some different decks where I just swapped the 5-drop, and it felt quite underwhelming, to be honest. And either it wrecks yourself with the effect, or it's just also clearable. It has such just as much health as a Dancing Blades, but without an immediate effect.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
that's the thing, right? Like you sacrifice one attack, and you lose a Phoenix Fire almost, right? It's so hard when you compare it to Dancing Blade to really put in Archon Spellbinder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like you mentioned before, you could maybe put it in a deck without that many spells, but then the reward is just not good enough. So
it's again very situational. Beforehand, it was just good because of the stat line, and then some matchups you just insta win with this. But now it's like it has a decent stat line, but not enough to just be straight up broken. And the effect is also wrecking yourself. So I don't know.
It's a bit
tricky.
tough. Yeah.
But I'm happy that is gone still. I feel like because of that particular card being gone, now you have to think a bit. So all of a sudden, there are more faction 6-drops being played, I would say. And
is there actually, though?
Maybe not 6, but maybe people just go to a 7-drop instead, or at least something. There was this high-end spot in every deck where this freaking card basically takes up 8% or whatever it is, 3 in every single deck. You have Archons. So it feels refreshing to see something else, at least.
I'm ready for the 8/8 golems to come rolling in, honestly.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I think that's better than this 5/6 that wrecks yourself. So, yeah.
Oh no.
Who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, that's the review of the patch notes, I think. Do you have some kind of like overall thoughts about the patch notes?
I like it that they also mentioned that they want to keep changing stuff. I think that's fine. What I would maybe like for the patches is that we could see the notes just a little bit before, because in Europe it's really, really annoying that the patch notes come out at 3 a.m. and then the patch goes live right after. But I'm not sure how Dreamsloth works, if they maybe don't know the patch notes until last minute.
I certainly hope they do.
Exactly. So, but for the overall patch notes, like what is actually content-wise in there, I like it all. I think I like all the changes. Some of them are a bit weird, but I don't care. Things changed, and I like it.
Yeah.
I like that they updated how the prismatics look.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I like the Kickstarter skins, especially my own, of course, that I can recommend you to check out, the Emerald Rejuvenator. But like this Borean Bear skin from Weak Foggy, it's insanely cool.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Also the Cotton Candy, even the Mana Forger. I think somebody must be really happy to play Spell Starhorn that he wanted a Lizard Mana Forger.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, the patch is nice. I'm happy that we got a patch, but I think I would have liked to see slightly more.
Yeah, I think they also need to tiptoe a little bit in the beginning, no?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the first real balance patch.
I feel like this doesn't really change the meta. Like, there's one deck that actually got changed, maybe even too much.
I would say 2 decks change, right?
Is it really, though? Because we
have Vanna changes.
Right? Got nerfed,
Vanna
absolutely,
changes.
with Lady Luck. You still have all the other playstyles. You still have your Jax bullshit and whatever, but like the wall playstyle, it's not really as viable anymore, right?
It felt a little bit underwhelming to test Glacial Elemental now, because that's kind of the only thing that works with walls. I know you can argue that you can still do some funny stuff with walls. You can Aspect of the Fox, Aspect of the Mountain, Primus Fist. Yes, sure. Yeah. But it's just not, you don't have that instant backup broken combo.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And everything else to me stayed the same. Maybe Songhai got hit enough. It's hard to say, but also the Archon Spellbinder nerf means that the counters to it is also going to be less prevalent.
Yeah, that's actually also something that I was a bit afraid of. It felt good to just drop an Archon versus them and then you heal yourself a little bit and you never hit their face and you just win. I didn't lose against Songhai 20, 30 games in a row towards S, only when they super ultra high rolled in.
Yeah.
But now without
Exactly.
Archon, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's cool. And if we see new patches regularly, I'm gonna be happy about it. Like honestly, every month would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also,
absolutely.
I would like to commend them on at least. I know it's a small steps, but raising the gold amount that people get for completing quests and making the quest more free on which faction you want, so that you don't stick to Vitruvian or something. If you swap into Vitruvian or whatever,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I would like to see even more gold, perhaps overall. But this is a good step in the right direction. 50% more gold per quest seems like a good start.
Well, I mentioned my opinions in my other video already. So to me, I don't need more gold. I just need better packs, I guess.
Yeah.
That's, of course, it depends on how much you can change, right? In current engine versus new engine versus like, it's easy to change the number of something, but how hard is it to change some fundamental thing? But then they go ahead and do this, what's it called? Big change to prismatics. So maybe they are more in tune with the current engine. I don't know, but
I'm a bit curious about that. If that prismatic was a very quick fix, because I saw some, like from the new engine, some examples of prismatics, what cool stuff can be done.
Yeah.
And might be that it changes again in the new engine how the prismatic looks. Let's see about that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So that's it for this review. Thank you guys for watching, and